I asked for questions, and you delivered. I couldn't answer every question. There were a lot of repeats, but I tried to give credit where credit is due. Let's get into it. Your task is to name the world's slowest roller coaster. What will you name it? I would name it the Brightside Fan Experience. I can't think of anyone slower than them. If you could live 1 week in any part of the world in any time period, where would you go? Istanbul, 1491. I'd convince them of the existence and riches of the New World, and laughing to myself, watch the timeline collapse as the Ottomans colonized the Americas. If you had to take a specific voyage on a specific vessel, which one would you choose and why? RMS Olympic's maiden voyage. All the glory of the Titanic's voyage without the... What inspired you to make this channel and its main differentiating feature from other ocean liner channels? Humor. Firstly, I want to say you've been a very loyal viewer of my channel. I appreciate that. Now as for my channel, I always enjoyed The Great Big Move. I'd go as far as to say I copied his style for my first video, but I wanted to reach a wider audience and bring them into this beloved community, and humor was a good method. If you could do a video series about any non-ship related disaster, which would it be? Someone suggested doing the Panama Canal once. I thought that was a great idea, but if we're going entirely off the nautical theme, then maybe a video on something random in history, like modern monopolies nobody cares about. Maybe something similar to Salmonella. I couldn't match him though, he's the truest of legends. What do you think of the Costa Concordia disaster? I think it's an insane event with an insane story, but I also think Internet Historian's documentary on it is the pinnacle of media on the topic, and I might just have to let him have it. How long does research for your videos generally take? About a week. Then I usually grind for a day or two of about 8 to 14 hours of editing. What's your opinion on the Russo-Ukrainian War? Putin looks like Mr. Clean's illegitimate son. You walk into a room full of monkeys with guns. They point their guns at you ready to shoot. What do? This is too simple. So I usually like to carry around a giant inflatable mattress with me on most days. So I'd throw it in the room and naturally the monkeys would jump on it. Monkey see, monkey do, they all jump on the bed, proceed to individually fall and bump their heads. If Titanic 2 ever launches, do you plan on sailing aboard her? Currently, the most optimistic project for Titanic 2 is being made in China, and as someone who played with toy ships made in China as a kid, I know the fate of that thing. Do you like my art? Are you an artist, and what is your advice? Your art is fantastic, my friend. And I occasionally doodle ships, but whenever I sit down to draw an actual ship, I can't finish. I'm not patient enough. I actually prefer making music. Do you have any other sort of niche interests, like stamp collection or something crazy that gets subdued by boats? I collect ship postcards, if that counts. I also am in love with the Shrek franchise, and have made my main goal to find an intact box of the General Mills Shrek 2 Corn Puff cereal. I also love flags, and collect retro video games. Who would have guessed the Lonely Boat Guy likes flags too? SAT scores? I couldn't find them, but I got a 29 on the ACT, according to my parents. If you were reincarnated as Jack Dawson, would you go for the Chad Fabrizio instead of Rose and maybe actually survive? I guarantee if I was reincarnated as Jack Dawson, I would die when falling through the lake ice fishing first. I was never a strong swimmer. Do you like anime? What's your thoughts on Japanese culture? I think Japan's culture is rad, and as for anime, I'll say a lot of people didn't translate this on my Great White Fleet video. What's your favorite vintage song? I go in and out of a lot of songs very quickly, but When We Was Fab by George Harrison and Scarecrow by Counting Crows are pretty consistent favorites of mine. Out of all your videos, which has your favorite lesson? This one. The lesson I've learned here today is that there is a community of people out there dedicated to my content, and that's pretty cool. Was the Titanic sunk by a German U-boat? Actually, if you play Das Boot at the exact same time as Titanic from start to finish, you'll find the two have no correlation whatsoever. What's your favorite ship? People ask a lot about my favorite ship, so I gotta confess I don't really have one. It was the MV Liemba just because of her history, many years ago, long before I made this channel, but once I got to ocean liners, I really didn't have one. Honorable mentions are the Kaiser Wilhelm de Grosse and SS Adriatic, if any, but I'm also partial to the Queen Mary. Your favorite type of cheese? You're very persistent with this question. Provolone, I always get it at Jersey Mike's. Have you ever seen the Nomadic? If no, do you plan to? I've only left the good old land of liberty once, and it was to go to the Caribbean, so I've never been to Europe. But if I do, it's a priority. Currently, I want to see the Queen Mary first. I just have to go to hell to get there. What sauce on McNuggets? Chick-fil-A sauce I've taken from my stash. Do you hate England? I don't know if you're joking or actually do. This is a complicated question. I think British food is terrible. They conquered the world for spices and then didn't use any of them. The teeth stereotype does have some backing, and they have the audacity to criticize international politics after going from ruling 1/4 of the world to living on an island the size of Oregon. Why were French pre-dreadnoughts so ugly? You answered your own question. Favorite ship type? I'm partial to ocean liners, but World War II corvettes, specifically the Flower class, are growing on me after reading The Cruel Sea by Nicholas Montserrat. What do you think about Minecraft ship creators? These guys do phenomenal work, and I envy not only their patience but knowledge of the subject material. How do you present a more serious topic with so much humor? This is a really good question that I get a lot. And to be honest, I don't crack jokes when I'm describing specifically serious topics. I only joke when I know it won't be in poor taste. The rule of comedy is basically don't mock the innocent. What is your opinion on the Titanic being visited and artifacts being taken? When I was younger, I thought it was a terrible crime. But now that she's deteriorating quickly, I think some artifacts being taken for the sake of preservation is acceptable. Do you have an opinion or basic knowledge of Portuguese ocean liners? I have an opinion on everything, even things I've never heard of. As for Portuguese ocean liners, they're pretty cool. Where will you invade with 10,000 people? Wyoming. In a battle of 10,000 against 6, I'd have a pretty good shot, even if most of them have guns. So what did we learn? I already answered that for Rank Knight 16.